Okay, then in this video we're going to look at input for characters. In the code you see here, I'm going to show you a couple different ways of getting the characters in as input. One, first, is just using a standard cin statement, just like we did in the previous video, getting inputs of doubles and integers. We can do it with a char also. So I have a couple variables that are chars, right? Char ch1, 2, and 3. So on this first one, we're going to run it. And you can notice the difference between the different versions that are here. The first one's just a straight cin statement. So there's the prompt telling you to enter a letter. If I simply hit the enter key, nothing happens. Right? Cursor's moving on the screen, but it's not taking it as input. And let's say I put the letter A in, hit enter. Now the cout statement shows me that I entered an A. Okay, so with the cin, the enter key played no role until after a key was actually a character was actually physically entered. Right. And the second one, when using the cin still, but when using a dot operator to access what's called a get function, we're passing it here, we're providing it the variable where we want to put the letter that we enter into, and then we can use it in the cout statement, just like we did up here. Right. But this gets function does behave differently than the normal cin, as we'll see. If I run this one a couple times, now if I hit the enter key, it shows you that the letter that was entered is blank, and it continued and finished the program. That's because the get treats the enter as a character, where the regular cin without the get treats the enter key as nothing. It's not a valid input yet. So it's a valid input for the get. Alright, so run that again, and I can put in a value. Alright, this time I'll put an R in, hit enter, and it tells me I entered the R, and it knows it's there. Alright, and there's a slight twist to that version of the cin. As you see here, in this case, instead of putting the variable inside the parentheses, it's put out here. Right, and it makes the assignment. So the letter will still get assigned to it, but this behaves exactly just like this one does. There's no difference. So if I run it, I hit the enter key, it continues without any keys. It shows me I didn't enter any characters, and the program finishes. If I type in a letter, it displays a letter. So these two behave the same. There's no real difference to show you here to run it again. Okay, so I'm going to comment that one right back out. Now this is a useful thing that you might find in your programs. Alright, I mentioned that you can do the Control F5, that would automatically pause it within Studio when the program runs, right? So you can see the results at the end. If you're running it outside or in a different environment, you can use this, which will actually pause the program. So you can put that at the end of your main, last statements there, right? And you're telling the user, program's pause, and you're waiting for them to press enter. And they just hit the enter key, and the program terminates. I did Control 5, that's why you see that press any key to continue. That would not normally be there if you don't run it within the Studio and use the Control F5. So it's a way to pause your program if you really need it for any reason. At the end to see the results, or somewhere in the middle for some reason. Okay. Now, there's an issue with the combination of all this. I'm going to leave that uncommented. I'm actually going to uncomment everything. And I'm just going to run the program for you. Okay, so it should prompt me, as you can see, for the first letter, because it is regular cin. And there it is. If I hit the enter key, nothing's happening. Right? So I'll put in a capital T, hit enter. It displayed the capital T for me. Then it prompted me again to enter another letter, but it skipped it and just put the output. And that's because the carriage return that was placed here when I entered the T, this get took it off the input buffer. This will leave that new line character on the input buffer. Right? This is a current issue with using the combination of these things. Right? It's not an issue that's going to be fixed at any time. It's just part of the language. And the way to get around that, if you combine anything with a cin and do this type of thing, is what we call the cin.ignore. Alright, and that actually tells it to ignore the next character that's in the input buffer. And we'll run that program again, and you'll see that it'll correct that problem now. Now again, put in my capital T, hit the enter, It stops and waits for me to enter the next letter, which I can do, and I hit the enter key. Again, the same issue is going to occur because I hit the enter key also, so this only fixed it for this case. These two will still have the same issue. So I would need another cin.ignore here and another cin.ignore here, so it ignores those carriage returns.